I mean, this is exactly what our brand is all about. You're it, whatever it is.
It's always difficult to pinpoint exactly where an idea comes from. It's usually like a build-up of things in my notes app for a long time, and then I kind of like sit and Frankenstein it together. But this was like the first idea I had for a film, and I knew very clearly I wanted to write a fairy tale. And I just thought like the actor is such an interesting subject. When you're an actor, you bring so much of your identity to a job. Like you can't really decenter from like, your race, what you look like, your gender. And I was kind of really interested in like the actor as like an almost sociological document and how they kind of represent their time. So I thought it'd be really interesting to write a fairy tale about an actor.
What drew me to this project was Naqqash himself. He's a tour de force, I think it's fair to say.
He's a tornado.
He's a tornado. He's a tornado of ideas.
An intellectual
and you get
tornado.
whipped up in the tornado, and it's just like, it's incredible. Naqqash and I had a meeting that was meant to be 20 minutes, lasted 3.5 hours, and we just talked about film, about life. And then right at the end, he was like, yeah, I want to do this film and about this character who's inherently unknowable, and it's a colonial fairy tale, and using, you know, the metaphor of acting, but it's not about acting. It's, you know, what if we took the profession of acting and people's late understanding of it, which is acting is an actor becoming someone else, right? Which I don't entirely agree with that. A lot of us actors don't, but that's a lot of people's kind of lay understanding of it. What if we take that to the extreme, just turn the dial up to 11 and see where that takes us? And I was like, I'm in.
I met Naqqash when he'd written less than a paragraph, and we developed the script through iFeatures initially, and then the BBC took us up to develop it further. So we got up to the second draft. The thing that fascinated me was the recontextualizing how we see performance on screen and taking what's considered now quite a traditional model of like the angry young man into a new area of like the anxious young man, and how that's presented within the environment. It felt very meta.
My favourite stuff in the film is kind of like when we're shooting and we don't really know where we're going. I don't say action, so I'm always just like, whenever you're ready. And Nabhaan and me would start and we don't know exactly sometimes where we're going. We have a very clear guide of where we're going, but we'd follow an instinct, or sometimes I would rewrite the script and give him brand new dialogue whilst we were rolling. And you find like some really like electric moments that way. There's a scene where Aden is shaving his face and Nabhaan's like applying the makeup. Nabhaan's applying the shaving foam. And I just had this voice in my head that was like, the whole face. And I said to Nabhaan, like, I kind of talk in this kind of quiet way and like give direction really gently to kind of not disrupt the atmosphere. And I just said, I remember saying to Nabhaan, I was like under the sink being like, cover your whole face. And he did it. It was just like when you're in a dialogue with somebody and you're kind of going somewhere and you don't know where you're going, there's something really exciting about that. And a lot of my favorite stuff in the film was kind of found in the moment with Nabhaan, and it's really exciting to work in that way.
The first time on set, it wasn't on set, it was we had rehearsals. Like a week worth of rehearsals.
2.
Was it 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Oh,
Was
good.
it?
I'm very lucky.
2 weeks.
Wow. You had 2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe 2
I
weeks.
feel like I had a week. But came in, first few days was just us. That was beautiful, lovely. It was quite daunting because it was like, don't really know where this is gonna go. No take is ever the same.
Well, you're inventing, right?
You're inventing.
You want to invent something you haven't seen. You kind of don't always know exactly what it is, exactly the tone of it. That's kind of the fun in finding it.
And then Rory came, and it was just this kind of dance. It was this lovely little dance of like, the first instance is like figuring each other out and like, are we gonna get along?
We do that as men, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Figuring is a little bit of
We do, yeah.
But it was lovely.
Yeah.
It was, and it ended up.
matador thing going
Yeah.
on, and then once
But then
everyone's safe.
Yeah, you realise you can. Oh no, I can actually not do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was your headshot that really.
Oh,
got me.
you always talk about this.
Yeah.
Can you let that go?
It's just the headshot, man. Like,
Let
no.
that go. I hate
Okay,
headshots.
alright,
I hate
okay.
headshots. I just don't think it's a great concept. Just not into it. This has no nothing
Rory-
to do with the film. what was your
A film about acting.
Actually,
Aden changes his headshot.
Actually, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But then I thought, like, I was nervous about going into a scene with you. he thinks that from my headshot he thought I was a certain type of guy, and then he met me and he realised I wasn't that at all. But I was
Professional
refreshing.
catfish.
I was
So
having
refreshing.
Happens all the time.
catfish.
Yeah. Professional, yeah.
You catfished me, and I felt like the same walking into set with you. I felt like
Yeah,
a level of masculinity,
definitely.
like that I was nervous around.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we eased into that first scene together where I
Yeah.
felt like I could let whatever that was activating
Yeah,
me
yeah.
down.
I think a standout moment for me was generally just watching the daily chemistry between Amir and Nabhaan. Amir is an amazing improviser, and I kind of enjoyed the sort of sparring between them. I mean, obviously Nabhaan was a character that had very limited dialogue in lots of scenes, so it was interesting to watch them and those two performance styles come together every day, and you never really knew what to expect because a lot of it was improvised on the day from the actors.
After casting Nabhaan, we had 6 months together of just like talking back and forth. We would have these like 10-hour meetings where we would like meet in a coffee shop and just go over this script scene by scene and just like talk about life and like build a relationship together and just kind of get to know each other's perspective and things that we like and the things that we're drawn to. And I would redraft the film and redraft the script based on our meetings. And then I think independent film, you don't have a lot of time on set, so you kind of want to have the confidence before going on set that the person you're working with and collaborating with has a really clear understanding of the tonality of the character. I think the complex thing about this film is like there are like lots of different tones going on at the same time, so it was about building each kind of tone and palette with the actor, so when they come together they feel right. And rehearsals are really like just a form of like bonding and like trust making, so then when you arrive on set and you don't really have a lot of time, you have such confidence and trust in your collaborators, so it was great to do that. And also like I'm really interested in like physicality and gesture, and rehearsals were a process of like figuring out like how people would kind of build a visual language with their bodies and how the camera would work. Like Nabhaan and me had a day with Tasha back, who shot this film, just to see how the camera would move and how close it would be to him, because I knew from the beginning the camera was going to be like quite close to him, like on an 80 lens, and that's quite intimidating when you have a camera really close to you and you're shooting. And I wanted them to kind of feel like dancers and they were in like a dialogue together, so we had a day just to test the bond's like comfort level of like what it was going to be like having the camera this quite intensely close to you. And fun fact is a lot of the stuff from the camera rehearsal is actually in the film. Even though we had no crew, it was just Tasha, me and Paul, our gaffer. But I find that really exciting. Like there's just something that happens when you're kind of in a live moment with the camera.
What I found really challenging was playing such a intensely, consistently internal character. Naqqash kind of communicated to me the importance of the intimacy of the camera, and Tasha back, the cinematographer, and Tasha was in rehearsals, so we were like dance partners almost. Like she was really tight on a tight lens, and that interiority was super important. It was super important to preserve that as it went on. There's different like parts where there's films within films, and I get to go into like different roles, which is exciting because I could finally like let something out externally. But holding that down, it was kind of like, and I was like depression, you know what I mean? It was like depressing everything and making it internal, and like just coming home with this like energy every night was tough.